Karibu AMG Realtors. We have specialized in selling of land across the country in areas like Nanyuki, Naivasha, Nakuru, Juja, Kagunda Road, Malindi, and the Abadeas. Contact us today for land investment solutions and have your title deed delivered within 60 days upon completion of payment. SMS AMG to 40299 or call us on +254 748 229 941. AMG Realtors. We don't just deal in land, we deal in value.
I really appreciate your time and, just being here on the show with me on the We Don't Play podcast show. How's everything going with you?
Pretty good. It's Friday. I'm planning on taking a nap after this. Friday afternoon. Just hanging out, promoting my new book, and talking about everything that goes on there.
Amazing. I would love people to know more about you and who is Chris? Who is Chris Voss? What does he do?
It really depends on which personality I'm running today. There's about 7 or 8 different personalities. No, I'm just kidding. I've been a CEO of my own company since I was 18, about 35 years. I've been on the Forbes top 50 for rockstar influencers. I've owned lots of different companies, mortgages, real estate, stock market, mall retailing, computer sales, clothing lines. I mean, you name it. We've been into everything. I've run a lot of companies. I decided to write a book that would share my entrepreneurial experience, journeys, and lessons that I had, some of the kind of crazy stories that came out of my experience as an entrepreneur, and take them down the road to people and see if they can use them to help them as well.
Definitely. I love that. Now that you've even mentioned it, now I'm thinking, how did it all start? The entrepreneurial mindset. People are like, how did you start this? That's usually the fun part.
Well, let me tell you a story. I was kind of an accidental entrepreneur back when I was growing up, a millennial ago or something. I'm very old, 54. But when I was growing up at 18, there was a lot of people talking about being an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what that was. And I was working at McDonald's, flipping burgers, being a cook in the back. And one of the guys who was the manager there, Utah's a very religious state. Ultra religious state, if you will. And I was kind of a young, long-haired rock and roll kid who was always wearing rock concert t-shirts from, Van Halen or Judas Priest or Ozzy Osbourne or whatever. And he just really did not like me. He took a shine to me. And one day he was badgering me and bullying me and told me that I had to cut my long hair. And it wasn't appropriate for being a cook and working at the store. So I was not willing to cut my hair because, hair is an identity. And I took a look at the women who were in the shop, and they had hair nets. And so I asked one, I said, how does that work? And they go, hey, go buy one. So I bought a hair net and put it up. When I would come to work every day, I'd put it up underneath my little McDonald's hat there. And he was all smug of the fact that he'd somehow called me into submission for his will. And I don't know, whatever. And so I got away with it for, a few weeks. And then one day he caught me pulling my hair out and he hit the roof and he fired me because I'd violated his order, because God knows, never violate a McDonald's burger order. I guess in his mind it was I don't know, where I should be at The Hague with some sort of crime against humanity, but that was him. And so I was fired. I went home and I said to my father, I was supposed to go to college within a year or two, and he goes, what are you gonna do? You can't sit around here, this is different, like the old days. And I said, I don't know. Well, over the course of my childhood and youth, I had worked for my father's company, his small little stucco subcontracting company, cement business, in the summers, and kind of whenever he needed us to work for him, we'd go work for him, make a couple bucks, and we'd learn how to plaster foundations, plaster, and do stucco. And I knew how to do it really well. because I'd spent so much time helping my dad. You know, that was the era where your mom kicked you out of the house and said, don't come home until street lights come on and I yell you for dinner. We were the Gen X generation. So we were raised by street lights, basically, and fresh air. So I learned the business, and he said, you know, I still have, like, you know, all the stuff in the back, all the parts and pieces, you know, I still have the accounts at the builder supply company. I haven't worked with anybody in years. He'd moved on to something else. And, but if you want to just go do that business, you can make some money. You know how to do it. And I didn't know that I was becoming an entrepreneur. I didn't know I was starting a business. I was just kind of excited. Ooh, I get to put my business on that thing on a card. I titled the company the same that my dad had, and just started doing business. And it was kind of scary at first, because I was a young kid going out and telling people, hey, hire me to do your foundations. And they're like, this kid doesn't know anything. He's just barely out of high school. And I'm like, no, I guarantee you. I wrote about this in my book. I gave them a guarantee. I said, if you like my work, try me. If you don't like my work, don't pay me. And when you say the words "don't pay me" to contractors, they get really excited about that, because they don't like to pay anyone. At least the old ones back in the day were just these kind of bearish type people. So they're like, okay, I'll take your bet. And I went and did my job and earned their business, and off I went. And that's how I became an entrepreneur with my first company at the age of 18. Within 3 months, and I tell this story in the book, within 3 months, I went back and shook the hand of the gentleman who was working there, thanked him for changing my life and firing me, and told him, I now make $18,000 a year, which is more than you make at McDonald's. And thank you for firing me, because you've given me the greatest blessing I can want. And he was in shock, of course, and it was funny. And of course, I still had long hair. I left that part of the book. I should have put that in. But to me, living at home with my parents at $18,000 a year 35 years ago wasn't too bad of a gig, considering you don't have any debt or anything. You're 18 years old. You're like, hey, I'm rich. So it was pretty cool for the time, and that's how I became an entrepreneur.
Wow, that's beautiful, and that's unique too, honestly, because you don't hear that every day.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. I was just like, I don't know, I have a business card and a company. I don't know. I'm the CEO and the janitor all at the same time.
That is huge. That is very inspiring, because, in today's world, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, the word is being flamed left and right. Like, yeah. So when you think about the value of an entrepreneur today and what the groundwork, the level of diligence and dedication they have to take, the time, the patience, they don't really think about those things, the ups and downs. How does someone think about those things and have that thought leadership in mind when they're not, trying to figure out everything on their own?
Most definitely. It's good now that there's a lot of entrepreneurs. It's good now that it's a very more common thought process. And so when I had someone on my show one time, and I was struggling with my book and the editing and putting it all together, the structure. You go through that cathartic process when you write a book. And you go in and out of jams, and you're stuck, and you're like, should this part be there? And I was going through some of it, and I had a book author on my show, on my podcast, and she said, let me tell you something. She goes, you're trying to get a message out, and this is going to help somebody. This is going to help somebody really important, or a lot of people that really need to hear your message. And they're going to come across your book at the time that they need this most, and they're going to hear your message, and you're going to help them. She said, years ago, I was at a book signing, and I met a gal who came before me and told me that she used to be in prison for some offensive sentences, and she had found my book in the prison library. And in finding my book, all the women in the prison were sharing the book, and it was helping inspiring them, lift them up, and make them want to do more with their life and get out of prison and live a better life. And she was shocked. She didn't know that there were so many people that were like really being helped by her book. And so now she keeps a picture of that young lady on her desktop, and she writes to that person. And so she told me, she goes, you need to realize there's somebody out there who needs this book. You're not doing this for yourself. You're doing this for that person. And so that really resolved and steeled my mindset to get the book done. And I hope that there's strategies in there, or tips and tricks, or at least entertaining stories of adversity that I overcame that will inspire people. And if not, it makes for a great table stand if you got one short leg in your dining room table.
First of all, I want to highly commend. I want to highly commend the cover. It's really beautiful, and it's simple, because simplicity is complex. And I want to keep it, light as well.
Thanks. That was a whole different catharsis too, is making the cover. And I couldn't get the cover I wanted, and it just seemed to be an endless pit of money, trying to find an artist that would make it for me. I couldn't even get close. And then finally I did what I do with all my companies. I just said, all right, I'm not an artist, but if I don't take the damn reins on this, it's not going to get done. So I went through and picked out some of my favorite books, got my vision going of what I wanted to see based on some other people's books. And then I just cut, paste, sent this extraordinarily ugly cut, paste, scrap, poorly photoshopped picture to the artist that I thought could pull it off. And I said, look, just take this and do this. And he did, and he actually did a better job. But he my vision for it nailed it out of the park, and it all came together.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And what really strikes out to me mostly is the way the light in the middle of the book is shining, and it's such
Thanks.
It's the detail.
Yeah, that was mine as well too. I said, originally he'd put it in as black, and I said, no, that needs to be a light. And then I wanted the little 3 lights on the outside of it too, to really indicate that it was light. And there was a lot of back and forth in this book. It was almost as cathartic as some of my businesses going through a process of a battle to find the cover, because the cover is important. It's what really sells the book. So I'm glad people like it. It was funny. Originally we had it up as an A/B test, and people didn't like it. They liked the other one better, and I didn't like the other one better. And then as soon as I chose this one, everyone liked it. So in hindsight, it is better than the original one too. So
yeah, sometimes that actually brings a good point, because when you think about focus groups and planning and doing research, and you want to develop the plan, when you think about the longevity and you're like, this is what people think, and it's like, no, this is what the consumer needs to experience. So it's like a tug of war in between the 2 points.
That's very true. You really nailed it. The one thing I realized was, I'm going to have to look at this book for the rest of my life. Once I publish it, I'm going to have to look at that cover. And if it's a cover I hate, I'm going to be miserable for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I'm just going to be like, I really hate that cover. And I self-published, and a lot of people don't know, when you publish with big publishers, many times they will pick the cover for you. You don't get a choice. I've had authors on the show privately talk to me in the green room. They're like, yeah, I don't like the cover of my book, but it's what they paid for. It's what they want. And I'm like, really? That would suck. I would never want to spend the next 10 years looking at a book that I hated. But that's the thing. It's personally designed by me, and as in the book. So, that kind of adds that special Chris Voss touch of also being that part of me, whatever that means. I don't know.
Yeah, this is golden. This is highly golden, because I think about the innovation part of it, and that's also what is in the copy of your book too. When you think about innovation, people hear it, but they just think, okay, yeah, I can innovate something so that I can build a rocket ship. But when you now think about innovation and being yourself and being authentic, how does someone take this book and say, okay, this is my goal, this is the target, and this is what I want to do for 2022?
Well, hopefully it's number one, it's the experience. So the book is kind of twofold. One, I talk about leadership and the beacons of leadership. And If you've ever seen a lighthouse, it's a beacon usually on a point, a hill. It's a beacon that shines forth, that influences everything. It's a warning signal to ships. It's a light in the darkness and the fog. It's something that people look to as, sometimes as a waypoint. Okay, well, I know north's over here because the lighthouse is here. And what I equated to is that a leader is much like a lighthouse. He's a beacon. A CEO is a beacon. A parent is a beacon. Wherever you are in your world, you can be a leader. And that's what I talk about in the book. And you are a beacon to the followers or the people that you're responsible for. And you need to recognize, number one, that you're a leader, that people are looking to you, but also that you have the responsibility to be a great leader to those people and influence them. And so the leader shines light that sends forth his message and communicates to the followers of him, of what his truth is, whether or not he's a trustful leader, his communication, his values, or the organizational's values. And it communicates all that. So I use that kind of metaphor, if you will, to kind of put that in people's minds. So the first part of the book, I talk about my top 5 things that I think you have to have a leader in the order of importance that I felt that in my opinion, you had to have based upon my experience. And I've kind of liked how it turned out. So the first one is Beacons of Leadership. It talks about how to have a passion for leadership and how to have a passion as a leader. So passion for me is the number one principle, because if you can't infect people with passion, if you can't inspire them, if you can't motivate them, you can't really do anything else. Vision and innovation, I put as number 2. So you've got to be a visionary. You've got to be able to innovate. You've got to be able to paint a vision of a future that people want to go to, that people want to follow you into. You say, we're going this way and we're going to build this and we're going to do it. Yay. If you're an NBA coach, you go, we're going to take the championship. We're going to win this year, whatever it is. 4th, I put honesty, integrity, and trust. So you've got to be someone that people can believe in, that you're honest, that you have integrity, you have trust, you have their best interests at heart. Communication and selling is another. You've got to be able to communicate your message and sell it to people to get them to subscribe to it. And of course, 6, character. And there's a lot of different things that go into character. So I started the book leading with that. And then I go into another part of the book that gives you my leadership toolbox, which is a lot of like little axioms that I used to have to innovate and be successful. And then part 4, I go into some of the details, stories of my life, with lots of different lessons that people can learn and adventures and overcoming some pretty dark moments. So people can go, wow, that guy survived that. I can probably survive what I'm going through, hopefully.
That's beautiful, because, it's like each one teach one. And it really helps because it builds a community that we can be safer together and be more impactful, at a much larger scale, because these are key characteristics that when you hear it every day, you're like, okay, I know how to innovate. But when you really look within and you see that this is a story that I'm going to tell someone that they're going to feel impacted by, it helps. It's like when your dad tells you a story, when your grandfather or grandmother tells you a story, you take that story to heart. So it's like when you hear someone's story that is impacting them, then it makes you feel like you're part of that story and you can build your own story through their story. So
most definitely. Yeah, it's something I hope inspires somebody. I've had a couple people have written me and said that they read it twice, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty powerful. You're impressed that much that you read it twice. A lot of them were starting companies, and so I hope that helps them, and I hope it changes the world and makes a difference for people.
Definitely. I really appreciate that. What would be that one story that you can tell us that there's going to be much, much more stories in the book, but what would be that one that they'll be like, okay, this is something that I think I can connect with right now?
Yeah. So one of the interesting stories in the book is I had a best friend who was my best friend for 22 years, business partner for 12, trusted him beyond a shadow of a doubt. And over those 10 or 12 years, we started to decline in, he had met a girl who was basically our Yoko Ono person who started getting in his ear and saying, you don't need Chris Voss. You can, you don't need that guy. You can go do your other thing. You're the vice president. You can go do whatever you want. And got in his ear, filled him with a lot of crap for several years. And then eventually he turned on me. And I took in, I could tell there was stress in our relationship, but we were having stress in our business because I was carrying everything and he wasn't really doing anything at that point. He'd really fried out on being an entrepreneur. He told me, he was like, I'm tired of being an entrepreneur. I'm tired of all this. It's a lot of work. And so one day he comes to me, hands me the keys to one of the businesses in our little empire he was running, and he says, "I'm quitting, and I've sabotaged this business that I run for us, and we're not going to make payroll on Friday, which was 3-4 days away, and you're going to miss payroll, and it's going to take all the companies into bankruptcy, so I can walk away from all the debt that we have." And I was aghast and I was floored. And he handed me the keys, and he threatened to quit the year before, as I write in my book. And I knew that this second time he was serious, and there was no use fighting with him. Just go. And so I spent the next 48 hours wide awake, doing everything I could to understand what he'd done to the company, what the company was doing. It was a company I hadn't run for 10 years, turned over to him. And trying to scramble to figure out how to make payroll at the end of the week within 3 to 4 days. And everything was on the line, all of our companies, all of our employees. I mean, he just had given up on everybody. So I did that. And in a Herculean effort of just doing, like I said about my book, jumping in and just going, I'm not going down this time. I'm not going out this way. This is the way I'm going out. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make that payroll marker. And by the end of the week, I'd met the payroll marker, saved the companies, saved the employees, and and then took the companies on from years afterwards. Ended up replacing him from his 5-figure monthly salary with a $2,500 secretary. That's how much work he was doing for our company. And so in the end, I won. And it was a hell of a time. It was like Caesar getting knifed in the back by your best friend you love the most in the world. And on top of that, it was the loss of a friend and someone I trusted explicitly. So it's quite the betrayal. It was almost like a divorce, only we were just, two good friends. But it was painful. It was like losing somebody that, and I went through a process where I had thought that us being his business partners we were like the magic juice that had made things work. And fortunately, I was going through a cathartic time with it and realized that I had been the proponent all along. I'd been the CEO who'd been kicking ass and taking names, and I need him. So quite extraordinary.
Wow, that's deep.
It was quite deep.
Because I'm thinking about all the people that would, entrust, in someone, or find confidence in someone and then get that kind of treatment. So it's really like a way to show that leadership is like, you have to prepare for all these hats. Even if you don't have them, you probably have to create one to make one.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it, because I was having to create a lot of hats sometimes in a lot of emergency situations.
Wow. Yeah, this book definitely, I want everybody to get this book. Definitely. How can they get it if they're looking for it now? What are the possible options?
You can easily go to Amazon.com, wherever fine books are sold. It's at Barnes & Noble. I think you'll have to order off the website at Barnes & Noble. Apple Books, it's on Apple Books, Google Books, you name it. If there's a bookstore, it has it. I remember seeing it for the first time when it was up for pre-sale. It was for sale in Japan, and I was like, wow, okay. I'm like, it's not in Japanese, but I hope they like it.
That's the influence we're talking about, it goes beyond you.
Yeah, I should have put a sushi story in there or something.
That might be a Japanese edition, for all.
Yeah, I might have to make a special.
Exactly.
Maybe on the cover I'll put like a Japanese.
Exactly.
Wasabi of leadership.
Right. Wow, Chris, this has been amazing. I really appreciate your time and just joining the We Don't Play podcast show and being a part of today's discussion.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. If there's a way they can reach out to you specifically, what are the options they have and where can they, stay connected?
Go to thechrisvossshow.com. You can see my podcasts over there. You can order the book from Amazon. I believe there's a link on the Chris Voss Show. You can order the book from Amazon if you want. Order the book wherever you can. Let me know if you like it. I'd love to hear from everybody, and let me know if you don't like it. I don't know. Send it to me and tear it in half and say, I hate your book. At least it'll be feedback. I'll be like, wow, okay, all right, well, here's your $20 back. I haven't yet to have someone tell me they hate my book. It'll be funny when someone finally does. I'm not encouraging that, by the way, but it will be funny because the first person who tells me on my face, I'll be like, yeah, you're the first person here. Let me autograph that for you.
Exactly. That is so true. And definitely I'll make it easier for the listeners too, because it'll be available in the show notes for them to click on.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I really appreciate you, and I definitely look forward to connecting with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, sir.
Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.